Good evening. The Bank of England has raised interest rates to the highest level for more than 14 years, with inevitable consequences for people with mortgages and credit card debt and other borrowing. The rise by half a percentage point to 4% is yet another attempt to control inflation. Now, the bank confirmed that the economy is set to enter recession this year, but it said the recession could be less pronounced than previously thought. Inflation remains close to its highest level for 40 years. The Bank of England is warning that there are still big risks to manage. Their words today. Let's start then tonight with our economics editor, Faisal Islam.
Yes, Hugh. So rates have been raised consistently and rapidly in just over a year, from nearly 0 to today's 4%. However, the question arising today is if it will go up much further or even stay at 4%. The bank does say inflation has peaked, so let's split that into goods prices. As you can see, it's started to come down, and the bank expects that to continue as energy prices continue to fall. But then why raise rates again? Here's why. In services, restaurants, hotels and office work, which is much more sensitive to wages, prices are still set to go up in the forecast in the darker line. Up front, however, is some good news. 3 months ago, the bank expected a long and deep 2-year recession in the red, but now they say it should be much milder, shorter and shallower, but a recession still nevertheless. But look at that picture over a few years, and the bank now says something remarkable. That after the pandemic, Brexit and the energy shock, the economy has suffered some enduring hits, meaning it won't have grown at all during the 2020s. Still at the same size at the end of 2019, just before COVID, all the way over there in 2026, more than a lost half-decade. The squeeze continues. An official interest rate of 4% should not feel huge, but it does. And not just here in Nuneaton for Joanne, who runs a furniture and gift shop.
The mortgage on the business has increased, gas and electric has increased, wages have increased and are due to go up again. So there's a lot of things that I have to think about on a daily basis to ensure that the business will be sustainable for the future.
But could there be some relief from the Bank of England? Some strong hints today that this should be one of the last, even the very last, of these 10 rate rises. Is the central message of today's decisions in the report that we may be beyond the worst point of this crisis with energy?
Well, I very much hope so, but we've only just begun to turn the corner, in my view, so it's too early to make that call with any, I'm afraid, degree of certainty. We think inflation is going to come down rapidly, and a lot of that is down to energy prices, which have fallen rapidly. But I'm afraid there are big risks out there which mean that it may not happen in that way.
The government backed the move, suggesting that putting up public sector pay too much amid the wave of strikes could risk higher interest rates, but the opposition said borrowing costs were hitting families.
The Bank of England is absolutely right to do what they've done today, and we in the government must make sure we support them by what I do in the budget to make sure that we make it easier, not harder, for them to do what we all want to do, which is to halve inflation.
Already before this interest rate rise, we know that 4 million people coming off fixed rate deals or on tracker deals who on average are going to see mortgage payments go up by £2,500 a year. So a very difficult time for people.
Britain may just be at a turning point in terms of the immediate energy shock recession, interest rates, inflation. But the medium-term picture for the economy is far more sluggish.
There's an extraordinary chart in your report showing that since just before the pandemic, that the size of the economy, we're not at it now, but we won't be at it even in the early part of 2026. That's over 5 years lost economic growth.
It is extraordinary, actually. Now, of course, we may have to conclude that COVID has had, bigger long-run effects than we thought it would, particularly in terms of things like the labour supply, of people choosing to come out of participating in the labour force. But you're right, it is quite remarkable in that sense.
So a softer landing in the next year, but the pandemic, Brexit and the energy shock leaving some lasting scars. Faisal Islam, BBC News.
As we mentioned, the rise in interest rates will affect many of those with mortgages and credit card debt and other borrowing, though it will benefit those with some savings. Our cost of living correspondent, Coletta Smith, has been talking about the financial pressures with people in Cleckheaton in West Yorkshire.
I'm 200 miles away from the UK's central bank, but decisions made in the Bank of England this lunchtime will impact everybody's finances in lots of different ways. Fabian is under pressure to make his wages stretch to cover all his bills.
I rent a one up, one down in Cleckheaton. It's small, but yeah, it goes, I'd say, 35 to 40% of both our outgoings. With the interest rates going up, will my landlord put my rent up?
It's not just homeowners who are impacted by increasing interest rates. Renters like Fabian are too, because if landlords are facing higher mortgage rates, then they're really likely to pass that on to tenants or to sell up, which means prices going up for everyone in the rental market because there are fewer properties going round. Don't forget though, a landlord can't increase your rent unless you've come to the end of your tenancy agreement. It's all about the wheels for Sam. So he's signed a PCP deal, a type of car loan he's paying in big monthly chunks.
Got my own business, that's going very well. Still living with my parents, which is nice, on a very nominal amount of board, which is lovely. But yeah, this is certainly the biggest thing that comes out monthly, is my lovely car. So with the interest rates going up, will my monthly car payments increase?
Most people on a PCP or a hire purchase deal are locked in for a particular period of time. Sam's just re-signed for another 2 years, so he's okay for a while. But anyone looking for a new car deal are likely to be facing higher rates because of the interest rate increase today. Jane's thinking of her whole family and knows her daughter will be facing higher mortgage rates.
You know, looking at my daughter, I'm sickened for her, but I've been there as well. We've seen some big interest rates over the years, so and people that have got savings and being careful with the money deserve to have a little bit more growth as well, definitely. With the interest rates going up, I'd like to know when our savings are going to show an interest increase.
Banks have been slow to pass on that higher interest rate compared to what they're charging for loans at the moment. So if you've got a choice between paying off some debt or tucking it away in savings, then you're probably better off to pay down your debt.
That's nice, Helen.
Wherever you live, it won't be long before interest rate benefits and losses filter through to your pocket. Coletta Smith, BBC News in Cleckheaton.
And our economics editor Faisal Islam is with us again. So after today's events, what's your reading of things?
Definitely a shift in tone from the Bank of England, and there's a good reason for that, which is the market price for gas has fallen considerably on the back of the fact that Europe generally has shown, for now, it can live without Russian gas. So the price has fallen, and that should filter its way into domestic bills eventually, sometime this year. But looking beyond that, a slightly different message, that these successive shocks that we've had, Brexit, COVID, the energy shock, that they're leaving a kind of lasting imprint on the British economy in the size of the workforce primarily, but also in the ease with which we trade with Europe, both things being affected in this forecast. So although there's sort of light at the end of the tunnel in terms of the immediate sort of energy shock recession, beyond that, a little bit of concern. It kind of goes both ways in terms of what the Bank of England said today.
Faisal, many thanks again. Faisal Islam there, our economics editor. And for more information about the economic situation from Faisal and other colleagues, go to our cost of living section on the BBC News website, bbc.co.uk/news. And of course, you can use the BBC News app as well.